So in our Bible reading verse today, we have those words that we've just shared with each other that are said 3 times. Peace be with you, which is why I said it in a slightly different way to how I normally do. Because peace be with you is something that we grant each other with all the time. And now here at St. Saviour's we have a fantastic tradition of doing it in a very genuine, warm way where we shake each other's hands or we give a little hug or however we choose to do it. But let me tell you, not all churches are like that. I actually grew up going to a few different churches, but one church in particular had a very different way of doing it. I was probably somewhere between the ages of 11 to 14, and it was a very kind of austere, kind of cold way that people would go around in this very traditional space. And so, the 7 to 11 of us that had gathered that Sunday morning would kind of come and say, peace be with you. And the thing that I found challenging is that I just didn't feel at peace at all. And it could be that I was kind of viewing it through my 11 to 14-year-old eyes, being in a traditional church. I didn't really want to be there. They didn't really have any other youth at all. But I didn't enjoy it. But my dad absolutely loved it. He was going to go around like, peace be with you, peace be with you. But I did not feel at peace. I didn't have any kind of deep sense at peace. In fairness to my parents, they did take me to other church events that had youth, so I was kind of covered there, but I didn't really enjoy this moment. And kind of the most that I think you could get from this moment is I think it's the kind of thing you could say to a friend as you grew up or something, and they'd say like, oh, that's nice. It's got that kind of like, oh, that's nice, isn't it? You'll go around and kind of shake each other's hands. But for me, it didn't feel nice. I just felt awkward. I didn't feel at peace. Though no matter how bad I felt, I don't think I felt anywhere near as bad as the disciples did in our reading today. At the beginning of the Bible verse, we see them huddled together in a house or a shack, and the door was bolted locked. It says at the beginning that the door was locked because they were fearful of the Jewish leaders, the Roman occupying leaders coming and taking them. I don't know if it was a double Yale lock or whatever kind of lock, excuse me, that they had back in those days, but it was locked because they were afraid. The person that they had been following, the person that they believed to be the new king of Israel, he was said to be the king who was going to come and rule the land just like David had in the past, and his followers surely would have some kind of place under this new kingship, had just been murdered, had just been killed in a horrifying way on the cross. And to make matters worse, it wasn't just the ruling forces that had done this, but it was also the disciples' religious leaders. It would have been their own religious leaders that had done this. So for us today, maybe the situation would be not only might we be arrested by the police or tried by the by the Lady Chief of Justice in the London courts, but it's also as if the Bishop of London's there as well, or the Archdeacon of York is also condemning you. For a religious person, this would be a nightmare. And this is the situation that they find themselves in. Yet within this situation, of course, suddenly, who should appear but Jesus? Jesus, who they saw just 3 days ago being murdered. The last time they saw him, he was dead and being put in a tomb. And in this numinous moment, to quote a term by Rudolf Otto, who talks about the mysterium tremendum, of this kind of almost fearful, reverential feeling that suddenly someone who was dead is now standing in the room and speaking to you, evokes, because he didn't knock on the door. He didn't break down the door. He didn't even knock on the door of their hearts. He just appeared in the space. And as he appeared, these are the words that he said to them, the same words that we have as a Sunday morning greeting. Peace be with you. Into that space. Peace. be with you. Which to my mind almost seems like quite a strange thing to say. I imagine that the disciples were terrified. A similar event had happened before when Jesus walked on the water to them in the boat, and they were terrified, and he said, "Don't be afraid." He reassured them. But in this time, he does not say, "Don't be afraid." And that phrase, "do not be afraid," appears in some kind of form of wording one way or another 365 times within the Bible. One time for every day of the year, "do not be afraid." But he doesn't say those words. And he doesn't say to them, "Do not worry." He says worry a lot throughout the Bible. Don't worry about your clothes. Don't worry about what you'll eat. Don't worry. He doesn't say that. He says, "Peace be with you." And so I wonder what you and I think of when we hear the word peace. The first thing that comes into my mind is probably some kind of 60s notion of like, hey, kind of peace, man, or something like that. But yeah, there we go. That would be maybe Jesus was turning up like that. No, he didn't. Or there could be in a kind of like dictionary definition in today's colloquial terms, we'd have something of like a ceasefire. Peace could mean like a lack of war. So if there's a war going on and then there's a period of a ceasefire, that would be just called a time of peace. It can be a lack of disturbance. So someone could say, "I just want to drink my coffee in peace, like just 5 minutes. I just want 5 minutes of peace." And it can be an inner sense, not an innocence. So it could be like, I'm at peace with it. It might even be in a bad situation, like it's not okay, I don't feel great about it, but I've made my peace with it. And of course, if someone is suffering and unwell towards the end of their life, and they die, even an atheist might say, well, they're at peace now. And so for us, there's this sense that peace is often about not having suffering. It's about not being away from trouble. Peace for us, in the contemporary sense, largely has a sense of not being in a place of trouble. But in the Bible, we have a slightly deeper and kind of richer, slightly different understanding. So, of course, in the Old Testament, the word for peace is shalom. It's lovely. It sounds lovely, isn't it? Shalom, onomatopoeic. Shalom. And this is what the disciples would have used whenever they read the Torah. They were Jewish people. They would have been going to the temple, and they would understand and say the word shalom and understand that. They spoke in Aramaic. The Bible of the New Testament is in Greek, but they would have understood Hebrew. And of course, all of the Old Testament, all of the prophecies about Jesus are all in Hebrew. And so shalom, from the Jewish sense, meaning complete, well, or whole. So it's not just a separation from something bad. The word means complete, or it means it's well. It's not unwell, it's well, and it's whole. And in the Old Testament, it does not just refer to the state that someone can be in, but it refers to the state that something can be in. So when Job had lost all of his sheep, and his friends were saying that, they could all come back again, and if you just pray to the Lord, they were saying that you could count your tents and they would be in shalom. It would be all together. In Joshua 8, when they're kind of creating a temple and having an altar, the stone needed to be perfect. It needs to have no cracks, no defects, exactly the right size. And when they found the perfect stone, it was a shalom stone, a stone that was perfectly complete. And it can also be used as a verb. So we see shalom happen when King Solomon completes David's temple. David, his father, King David, started this big temple and he didn't complete it. And King Solomon shaloms it. That's what it says. He shaloms it when he finishes it. If someone's ox damages another's field, you bring shalom to them by giving them a repayment. You make it okay. You make it shalom by bringing a repayment. And to reconcile a broken relationship is to bring shalom to that relationship. And in terms of kind of warring fractions going on, shalom was only brought when not only they stopped fighting, but they started working together for each other's good. So shalom wasn't a ceasefire. Shalom was we're now working together for each other's good. We're in relationship. It's totally healed. That is shalom. So when we look at the Bible, we start to see that particularly the Hebrew understanding, which Jesus and his followers would be very aware of and talk about, was that peace is not actually just a lack of something else. It's not a sense within yourself, though everything else is broken. It's a sense of wholeness and healing. But also what we see in the Bible is that Jesus came not just to talk about peace or to bring peace or to encourage peace, but it was a core part of his identity. If you've ever been to a Christmas carols concert, an Advent concert, we had one here. It was fantastic. We have one every year, but we had one this year. I'm looking at Jack. We had one this year. It was fantastic. Do come this year as well. It will be fantastic, I'm sure. But you'll probably have heard this Bible verse. It's a really well-known Christmassy Bible verse, and it's from Isaiah, and it's this prophecy about Jesus. To us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he'll be called Mighty Counselor, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. The Prince of Peace is his name. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. So Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and his government of peace shall have no end. It's eternal. It goes on and on and on. Another way of saying it here would be that Jesus is the Prince of Shalom, and his shalom shall have no end. He's the Prince of wholeness, the Prince of completeness, the Prince of restoration. And in his kingdom, those things will always be present. And so, as we come back into our Bible reading today, and we have the disciples huddled, in my mind, they're like huddled together in this dark shack. Jesus suddenly appears, maybe a few candles, and then Jesus appears. It definitely was in the evening. And he says to them to have peace. And it's interesting that he says something that he wants them to have. He doesn't talk about having a lack of something. It's not his focus. He doesn't say, don't fear. Like, you've got too much fear, have less fear. He doesn't say, don't worry. You've got too much worry, have less worry. But he talks about a new reality for them. It's not just a feeling, but this is a new reality which he has won for them. Shalom is the very thing he's won for them. So when he comes and says, peace be with you, it's not a feeling. He's telling them about the new situation that he has just won. Shalom. Shalom be with you. And what he's really saying is wholeness be with you. Completeness be with you. Restoration be with you. Healed relationship be with you. Not as an encouragement for them to ponder on, or as an emotion for them to try to stir up, but as a new actual reality. Because peace is what Jesus has just won. They are now in the healed state. When Jesus died and defeated death on the cross, and when he rose to life, he defeated death, leaving St. Paul to write, death has been swallowed up in victory. Where, O death, is your sting? Where, O death, is your victory? And as we come into relationship and union with Jesus, we share in this victory over death and the bondage and the wages of our own sin and all corporate sin. Jesus undoes the work of the fall where Adam and Eve are thrown out of the Garden of Eden and restores and heals this broken, fractious relationship. And however you choose to view the Eden narrative, we all know that our own sin and our own actions can get in the way of our relationship with God, our relationship with the people around us, and the relationship with ourselves. And Jesus points to a time when all of that will be done. I wasn't sure if I was going to share this Bible verse, but I think I will. So, as we look towards his kingdom of shalom, his eternal kingdom of shalom, it says this. And if we think about what's life like now, this dog-eat-dog world where we're often battling, if you actually look at the ecosystem, pretty much nothing can live without taking off something else. That's where we live. That's where we live. And in this prophetic vision of the future kingdom of shalom, it says this: the wolf will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the young goat, and the calf and the young lion and the fattened steer will be together, and a little boy will lead them. Also the cow and the bear will graze, their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The nursing child will play by the hole of a cobra, and the weaned child will put his hand on the viper's den. They will not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. The earth will be full, everything in creation will be full of the knowledge of the Lord and of his shalom. And in a moment, I'm going to end, and we're actually going to have baptism for two people, two young children. And baptism is actually a really great way to symbolize and to mark what happens here. As we share in Jesus' death, we share in his resurrection, and baptism marks this. St. Paul again says, "Do you not know that all of us who have been baptized into Jesus Christ," this is a bit intense, particularly for parents, don't worry. Jesus, we're baptized into his death. But as we're baptized into his death, we're buried therefore with him, but into death. But in order that just as Christ, here's the good news, was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, we too might walk in the newness of life. So the next time you're in church and you're hearing people say, "Peace be with you," or you might hear it somewhere else, let's just be reminded of the fullness of what this means. You may all be aware of it anyway. Sometimes I'm not always fully aware of it. The shalom be with you, the fullness now, the fullness into eternity. Just what Jesus has done, so let us walk with him.